Hey, yo. I just finished shaving. Coming out of a bit of a binge. And I know my face looked really bad. Just finished shaving. I put that after shaving, it turns my face red. And anyway, I look terrible. But I want to say something. I want to say something to the young adolescent teenagers. And I want to say this because I know y'all looking at me and say, what does this old fat man got to say? But I used to be a young adolescent teenager. And I remember how tough it was at times because you're young. And I mean, you're really young. If you think about it, I'm 47. And so let's say you're 15 years old, okay? 15, okay? By the time you're 15, you're already in puberty, right? Or whatever. And nowadays, 15-year-olds be having sex and stuff like that. I was only getting started when I was 15, you know? I mean, that was the first time I ever had sex. And really, at that time, they were saying that was a late bloomer, you know? And when I look at it to me today, I think that was still too early, you know? But I want to say something about that. Is at 15 years old, I'm 47 now. If you multiply, and I was confused then. There was some things when puberty hit, I didn't know what happened. I mean, as natural as sex is and stuff like that, you know, it needs to be under guidelines, you know, sex with another person, because we know it's can be very dangerous, you know, emotionally and physically. You can get diseases that, you know, weren't really a big concern when I was younger. And, right, I look like I still get pimples though, if I eat chocolate. But, the thing about it, yeah, it's diet. And you know what? Nobody told me it was diet. And soda and stuff like that, you know, will give you big pimples, you know. And I went through half my life before I ever figured it out, you know. But my point is, and that's my point, and I'll get to it again. But I wanted to say, you know, at 15, I was 15 years old, and now I'm 47. If you multiply my life by 3, at that age, if I was 15 years old, 555, you would have to multiply it by 3, so 555 times 3, and you would still not get my age now, you know? See, this old shirt, change is good. So, after I am literally 3 times older than your whole life, 3 times, you know? And so if you think you know it all, I know it all times 3, okay? So, why I'm saying that is because when you're that age, you really don't know it all, even though you think you do. And you don't, and so some of the things that you think you know, you really don't know until it's multiplied by 3. So what I'm trying to get to is a lot of times you run into problems. Like I said, when I was a teenager, I didn't know about sex. My parents weren't the kind, they down south, old fashioned, right? They didn't really go there with me. They did with my sisters because, well, and the idea is like, you know, a boy will find out on his own. Nowadays, it's really confusing to you because now they try to teach, you know, that I'm not even going there. They're going to teach that all kind of sex is the answer instead of abstinence. And let me tell you, sex is not the answer. So when you have problems when you're confused, exploring and messing with stuff that you have no idea what you're messing with is not the answer. It can flip your world upside down. So let me say that sex is not the answer. What it is a whole new set of problems that you didn't have when you didn't have sex. 1 million out of 10 chance you will not one out of 1 million chance you will not get AIDS if you are not having sex. Plain and simple. Meaning you don't have to face death by at least sex, which is a very real possibility. If you check the statistics, millions of people are dying from AIDS. So that's one thing that you can option out of automatically if you don't have sex. And sex will make you feel good for about 15 minutes. In my case, 2, maybe a minute and a half. It's okay. Whatever. What I'm saying is that for that it does not make you, whatever, 15 minutes or whatever. The curiosity is what kills the cat. It's like you're so dying to find out and stuff like that, and then there's a bunch of pressure to by your friends. And so unless you know what you want, who you are, and especially what they teach you in school, they try to teach you things that you're supposed to want, things that you really don't even want. That's the only thing that saved me. When you're a good-looking kid, you get hit on by all kind of people. Okay, so don't be influenced as long as you know what you want. I knew what I want up until I was about 13, and then puberty hit, and then it was like I didn't know who I was, and then it was like okay, but I know what I didn't want. So I was never fooled into believing what other people would influence me, try to influence one way or another. I wish I had felt that way with drugs, but with that, I just kind of, I was following the lead, and it really caused me a lot of pain and suffering for years. And I know people who did drugs and no longer are on the face of this planet. And so it's not really the good. But so what I wanted to say, I saw this suicide show, and it really moved me to say something. When you're that young, you don't have the answers. You're looking for the answers, you don't have it. And there are people who do have the answers. How can you possibly have the answers to your life and the problem? This one girl was talking about her mental problems and stuff, and how she hears these voices, and usually the voice is just you battling with things you don't know the answer to. And so it's like, where you get something and you just suck in a loop and you go over the same thing 100,000 times, and you can't get out of that loop. You can't change it, and you can't figure it out because you don't have the answer. So what you need to do is go to somebody who can give you the answer. And usually that's somebody who has lived, who you can trust, who are doing well, who is an authority like a counselor, someone a parent, someone who cares about you. Or even though if you don't think, there's somebody who cares about it. It doesn't have to be your parents. It could be somebody else. One of my biggest mentors and one who I admired and modeled myself was not my parents. They had expectations for my life, expectations that I could not fulfill because it was expectations for their life. Quite honestly, I felt that their expectations for my life was kind of low. I had bigger dreams than what they wanted for me. So I couldn't listen to them. And quite honestly, if I look back at my life, I actually achieved maybe a lot more than what they wanted for me, even though it's not in the way that they wanted. I wound up teaching in colleges, going to New York, traveling, a little bit, doing things. Not really traveling, because I don't really like traveling. But my point when don't let your brain burn and go over the same, God has answers. God knows everything. Okay, if you don't believe in God and stuff like that, and maybe there's somebody else who does, and you might just want to take their perspective, an ideal of what they think, of their their answer. Okay, maybe it's just another piece of advice. Okay, so sometimes we try to fight and find the answers and sometimes we just don't. We're trying to deal and fight the battles, or something is not settled with us. It's something that is just, we come across a problem and we just don't know how to fix it. And so your mind just keeps trying to fix it, and it doesn't know the answer. And so it can't fix it. So you just got to find somebody who has the answers, and then it's just like, boom, you're off on another track. You're on. It's like you don't have to go over that. You don't have to have the same term. And so the problem is we forget to ask for the answer. It's like being in school, and afraid to raise your hand because it might be, you think it's embarrassing. But really, it's just 10 more other people in the same class, and they're afraid to ask the question. But one person asks the question, and then all the other people in the class know. Now they don't have to ask, so to speak. So don't be afraid to ask the question, to get the answer. And I believe personally, God knows everything. There's nothing that, I might not get the answer right away, but I'm willing to wait and hold on until I get it. But usually I get it. It could come to me in any kind of way. But just the fact that you got to ask the question to get the answer. And especially if you don't have it, you can't figure it out. And sometimes it's the simplest little thing. The simplest little thing. We tend to blow things out of proportion. It seems because our small little world, or because we haven't been on the planet very long, everything seems real big to us. When it could be a small thing that if you're on the planet longer, if you live long enough, you will find the answer, and the answer, you will be like, what? I spent all that time worrying about this thing when it was actually a very, very simple little thing. It was a simple solution. Or maybe you need somebody to push you towards the solution because you're used to doing it this way. But, harming yourself is not the answer. It's not the answer. It's never the answer. That won't solve anything. You won't be happy if you even know about it. You don't know how. One thing, I had a problem with self-esteem. And that's what I meant when everything went crazy. And I didn't even know I had a problem with self-esteem when I was a young kid. It was so strange. I had so much self-esteem. And then when, like, the whole ideal of sex came along, and, it's like, it's like the whole world just changed, and I wasn't so sure about things anymore, and so that's not a big thing, I'm talking about it openly. Nowadays, back then we didn't talk about stuff like that much. Nowadays you have it all over the internet, but sex wasn't all that accessible and stuff like that. And just, understanding that, we just, it wasn't that accessible, and so I didn't know the answer. People didn't talk about, and sex is one thing you don't talk about much. So but nowadays, they have sex, but they teach you all kind of anything, and it's not based on any kind of sound, healthy doctrine or healthy lifestyle, if you ask me. But my point is that at least, find the answer, before you make a move. And I think sometimes we fight things and struggle with things when that's not even our problem. You know what? If you took that whole big problem out and threw it away, just ignore it for a while, then what is really going on with your life? What is really happening in your life? You will find that things are pretty normal, pretty basic. We just get thrown a monkey wrench that gets locked up in our cogs, and the system don't turn, and they just keep like a bad hard drive that got a bad sector, just keep ratcheting over the same point. When you just get like Norton's utility on the brain and it'll fix it, or just get that little answer, or just find a little word like peace, like the battle is not yours. You find a battle that's not yours. That's in the Bible. Okay. So sometimes we try to fight a battle that ain't even ours. So if you just let it go, forget it, you can go on and be happy or deal with things. But half the times we wear over it so much that our mind becomes tired, our body becomes tired, we can't sleep, we can't do anything. It's not when and at that point, when your mind, it's hard to decipher things. When your mind is already you're already tired from going over the same, and you're habitually going over the same thing. But that was the problem. When I was younger. And drugs are not the answer, because how could anything that, when your mind is already tired and when your mind is already can't figure things out, and you really just don't have the answer anyhow, because you just haven't been around long enough. You haven't experienced it before. So drugs are meant to throw off your processing center and kind of make it illusional, or whatever. It's not functioning at its normal optimal sense, and it wasn't functioning at its normal optimal. Your brain is just like anything else. Your mind, your brain is physical, so the physical things can affect it. You can get hit in the head, that'll affect your thinking physically. So what I'm saying is that some of the drastic things that we do are not the answer, and it's the answer that often comes up based on your limited experience with some of these things. So shooting up the school is not the answer. Hurting yourself or hurting yourself, hurting anybody is not the answer. Drugs is not the answer. Sex is not the answer. Sometimes it's just a good word. Sometimes it's just a hug. Sometimes it's just, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just hearing somebody else saying they're sorry. Sometimes it's just understanding or seeing eye to eye, even if you're not sorry. Sometimes it's just throwing it away and forgetting about it. Sometimes it's just humbling. Sometimes it's just taking a bath. Sometimes it's just resting. Sometimes it's just a change of environment. Sometimes it's just cooling out. Sometimes it is professional help with professional people that can help you and just can calm your body down with the appropriate diagnosis and prognosis and things, to give your body a chance to rest so that your mind can rest, or however they do it, sedative, laxative. Sometimes it's just counseling. Sometimes it's just recalibrating your mind, and getting your mind back with a professional or somebody who is qualified, who does this day in and day out and been doing it 30 years. Well, that's at least twice the time you've been living, on the earth. There's people that, you got to give them, in today's society, they say, older people don't know nothing. Some of them don't, but a lot of them do. You got to give them credit for at least making it longer than what you're making it right now. Than how long you've made it so far, which is good. Sometimes, like I said, like my problem was self-esteem, and because I was such a good-looking, handsome man, everybody figured, because I was quiet, was because I was arrogant and stuck up and didn't want to be bothered with anybody, which was the furthest of the truth. I was just paranoid because I had smoked too much pot. I wasn't too sure. It makes you paranoid, And so I was scared to talk to people, scared to be in a large room around people, and just kind of clammed up, and I was just tight. And then my self-esteem dropped, because then I wasn't in with everybody else. So my point is this, that, we have a saying, don't let the devil fool you into thinking you're alone. Don't let the devil fool you, and Also, we think that the devil, God is the greater. The devil ain't got as much power. He kind of tricks you into believing he's got a lot of power. He ain't all that. That's how I got out of it. People used to be all scared of the devil. I'm like, wait a minute, God will whip your ass. Yes. He gonna whip your ass. Anyway. Sorry. All right. So anyway, don't get tricked. Don't isolate. Don't get divided and conquered. That's the worst. Be around people. Reach out to people. Get a hug. Cry with somebody. Find somebody to help you cry. Sometimes you just want to cry. Sometimes you just want to let it out. Sometimes you're just frustrated. Sometimes you want to beat on a pillow. Pillows are okay to beat on. Maybe, unless you the defense fund of pillows, whatever. Anyway, it's long enough. I think you get my message. Sorry it's so long and boring, but we got physical health, and there's mental health, and there's spiritual health, and there's emotional health, and nobody teaches you all those things, and you have there's a lot of stuff like that, and so there's a lot of problems that somebody could say, well, if you got a problem, intervention, somebody can step in and help you solve the problem. Sometimes we all need somebody bigger sometimes, Anyway, God bless you. Love you. Love you. Love you, love you, love you. And you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're great, you're fantastic, no matter what. That is without a doubt. You're marvelous. Marvelous. God created you marvelous. Whether you believe it or not, you are marvelous. God love you. God bless you. Everything. Peace.